The sound of splintering wood made my heart stop. I rushed outside to find my grandmother's prized rosebush crushed beneath an enormous bouncy castle, its decades-old branches scattered like broken promises across the lawn. My brother Ramon stood there with a beer in his hand, watching his kids bounce away, while my sister-in-law Cynthia lounged on my grandmother's antique patio furniture, scrolling through her phone. "Oh, hey, Belle," Ramon called out casually. "The kids needed something fun for the weekend. Hope you don't mind." I'm Isabel, and 3 months ago, I inherited this cottage from my grandmother. The same grandmother who spent 30 years cultivating that rose garden, who taught me the names of every bloom, who trusted me to preserve her legacy. Now I was watching it be destroyed, one careless act at a time. "Ramon, we talked about this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The garden was off limits. Cynthia looked up from her phone. "It's just some old flowers. This place needs modernizing anyway. You should be thankful we're helping update it." I bit my tongue, remembering the conversation that led us here. Ramon had shown up at my door 6 weeks ago, eyes red from crying. Cynthia and their 2 kids waiting in the car. They'd lost their house, something about bad investments and missed payments. He'd promised it would just be for a few months while they got back on their feet. "We're family," he'd said. "What else is family for?" Now I watched as Milena, my 10-year-old niece, jumped from the castle onto what remained of the rosebush. Each bounce felt like a punch to my gut. "Dinner's ready," Cynthia called out. "Belle, you're welcome to join us. We're using that fancy dining room set, though honestly it's so dated. We should really think about replacing it." The dining room set. Grandmother's mahogany table that had hosted 50 years of family gatherings. I walked inside, past the walls they'd already started repainting without asking, past the boxes of grandmother's photos they'd packed up to make space, and into my car. My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. "Don't be difficult about the house, sweetie. Your brother needs this. Family comes first. Family comes first." How many times had I heard that phrase used to excuse Ramon's behaviour? When he borrowed my college fund, when he crashed my first car, when he showed up drunk at grandmother's funeral. I drove to the small coffee shop where I used to meet grandmother every Sunday. As I sat in our usual booth, my phone lit up with pictures from Cynthia's social media. She was posting photos of their new place, talking about renovation plans as if the house was already theirs. "Excuse me," a familiar voice said. "Is this seat taken?" I looked up to see Bonnie, my grandmother's next-door neighbour for 30 years, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I saw what they did to Margaret's roses," she said, sliding into the booth. "Your grandmother would be heartbroken." "I know," I whispered, accepting the coffee. "But what can I do? They're family." Bonnie's eyes hardened. "Family doesn't destroy what you love, dear. And your grandmother didn't leave that house to them. She left it to you." My phone buzzed again. Ramon. "Hey, sis, we're thinking of converting that old sewing room into a game room. The kids need their space, you know? The sewing room, where grandmother taught me to stitch, where we spent countless hours talking about life while she worked on her quilts. Each one told a story, she'd said. Each stitch was intentional." I looked at Bonnie, who had watched this family drama unfold for decades. "What would grandmother do?" She smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was knowing, almost fierce. Margaret wouldn't let anyone walk all over her legacy. She may have been quiet, but she was never weak. I took out my phone and opened my contacts, scrolling to a number I hadn't used since handling grandmother's will. Lionel Morrison, attorney at law. "Sometimes," Bonnie said, watching me, "the kindest thing you can do for family is show them there are consequences." As I pressed the call button, another text came through. Cynthia had posted a new photo. My grandmother's antique vase, now painted hot pink, with the caption, "Making this place our own." New beginnings. "Hello, Lionel," I said when he answered. "We need to talk. It's about the cottage." I could hear the bouncy castle's motor humming in the distance, still crushing what remained of grandmother's roses. But for the first time since Ramon moved in, I felt something other than helpless. Something was building inside me. Quiet, calculated, and unstoppable. Like grandmother always said, roses might be delicate, but their thorns mean business. "What in God's name happened here?" I whispered, staring at the black Sharpie scrawls defacing my grandmother's portrait. The elegant oil painting that had hung above the fireplace for decades now bore cartoon moustaches and devil horns. "Kids will be kids," Cynthia chirped from the kitchen. "Besides, that old painting was so dreary." I pulled out my phone and quietly snapped a photo, adding it to the growing album I'd labelled Evidence. 3 weeks had passed since my meeting with Lionel, and each day brought new destruction. The doorbell rang. It was Mom carrying a casserole dish. "Belle, honey, you look stressed," she said, pushing past me. "I brought dinner for everyone. Where are my grandkids?" "Probably upstairs," I said, drawing on more walls. Mum's face tightened. "Don't be dramatic. Ramon told me you've been difficult lately, making comments about how they're living here." A crash from upstairs interrupted us. 7-year-old Arthur came running down, clutching one of grandmother's porcelain music boxes. "Mum, look what I found!" Before anyone could move, he tripped. The music box shattered on the hardwood floor, its delicate ballerina splintering into pieces. "Oh, sweetie, are you hurt?" Cynthia rushed over, completely ignoring the broken heirloom. I knelt down and started gathering the pieces. That was grandmother's, from Vienna. "It's just stuff, Belle," Mum said, helping Arthur up. "What matters is he's not hurt. Remember when Ramon broke your science project before the fair? You got over that, didn't you?" The memory hit hard. I was 12, had spent months building a working model of the solar system. Ramon had accidentally knocked it over the night before judging. Mum had said the same thing then. "It's just stuff." "I need some air," I said, stepping onto the back porch. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lionel. "How's the documentation going?" he asked. "I've got photos of the damage, plus videos of them admitting to changes they've made without permission. Bonnie's been keeping a log of everything she sees too." "Good. Keep building the file. And, Isabel, stay calm. The calmer you are, the more they'll show their true colours." As if on cue, Cynthia's voice carried through the open window. "I'm thinking we should just get rid of all this old junk. Make room for our own things." I walked to the garden shed, the one place they hadn't invaded yet, and pulled out an old photo album. Inside was a picture from 20 years ago. Ramon standing over my broken science project, me in tears, Mum hugging him, while Dad stood in the background, silent as always. The back door slammed. "There you are," Ramon appeared, swaying slightly. "We need to talk about the master bedroom." "What about it?" "Well, it's the biggest room, and with the kids growing..." I stood up. "That's my room, Ramon. We agreed." "Come on, sis. You're barely here anyway. Always at that apartment of yours. We actually live here." "Because it's my house," I said quietly. Ramon's face darkened. "Right. Because grandmother played favourites. Always perfect little Belle, the only one who could do no wrong. I was the only one who visited her every week, who helped with her medications, who actually cared. We all cared," he shouted. "You just made it impossible for anyone else to get close. Always hovering, always judging." I pulled out my phone and hit record, letting it peek from my pocket. "Look," Ramon continued, his voice dropping to a manipulative whisper. "This house is too big for just you. We're a family. We need it more. Why can't you understand that?" "Because it's not yours to take." He stepped closer. "We'll see about that." After he stormed off, I played back the recording. His threats were clear, his entitlement evident. Perfect for the file. My phone buzzed with a text from Bonnie. Just watched Cynthia throw out another box of your grandmother's things. Got pictures. I replied, send them to me. Inside, I could hear Cynthia on the phone. No, you don't understand. We practically live here now. That makes it basically ours. Yes, I know her name's on the deed, but we're family. Mum appeared in the doorway. Belle, honey, why are you hiding out here? Come inside. Family dinner. I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who had always chosen Ramon's drama over my stability, who had watched him take and take, calling it love. You know what, Mum? I'm not hungry. As I walked to my car, I heard Milena ask, why doesn't Aunt Belle like us anymore? Cynthia's response carried across the yard. Because she's selfish, sweetie. But don't worry. Soon, this will be our house anyway. I smiled slightly, thinking of the growing file on Leonel's desk. We'll see about that, I whispered, starting my car. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at walls that had been seafoam green just 3 days ago when I left for my business trip. Now, they were painted a garish hot pink, and grandmother's china cabinet stood empty, its delicate contents nowhere in sight. Surprise! Cynthia emerged from the kitchen. We decided to brighten things up while you were gone. And don't worry about the china. We packed it away somewhere safe. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Family meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Important to be there. Oh, good. You got the message, Cynthia smirked. We have so much to discuss. I spent the next few hours documenting everything they'd changed, my camera clicking quietly as I moved from room to room. The antique mirror in the hallway, gone. Grandmother's handmade quilts, replaced with store-bought blankets. Even the kitchen herbs she dried and hung with such care had been tossed out for looking messy. At 6:55, cars started pulling into the driveway. Mum and Dad, Ramon's friend who happened to be a real estate agent, even my Aunt Linda, who hadn't visited grandmother once during her illness. Sit down, Belle, Mum patted the couch. We need to talk about what's best for everyone. I remained standing. Where's the china? Oh, honey, Mom sighed. That's not important right now. We're here to discuss the future of the house. Ramon cleared his throat. Look, sis, we've all been talking. This situation isn't working. Finally, something we agree on, I said. The thing is, Cynthia jumped in, this house is perfect for us. The schools are better here, the kids are settled, and let's be honest, you're never here anyway. Because you've taken over every room. Belle, Dad spoke up, his voice carrying that familiar tone of forced patience. Your brother has a family. They need stability. You're single, you have your apartment. It just makes more sense. To what? I interrupted. To give them my house. It's not just your house, Ramon stood up. Grandmother meant it for all of us. You just manipulated her into... Careful, I warned quietly. The point is, the real estate agent interjected, Ramon and Cynthia are willing to take over the mortgage. We've drawn up some paperwork. I laughed. Actually laughed. There is no mortgage. Grandmother owned it outright. Even better, Cynthia clapped. You can just sign it over and... No. The room went silent. What do you mean, no? Mum's voice shook. This is your family, Belle. Your brother needs... My brother needs to learn he can't take whatever he wants. Ramon's face darkened. You always were emotionally broken, never understood what family means. Family? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. Like when you sold grandmother's jewellery while she was in the hospital? Or when you borrowed her car and crashed it? That's different. I was going through a hard time. You're always going through a hard time, Ramon, and everyone always expects me to fix it. Aunt Linda spoke up. You're being selfish. Your grandmother would be ashamed. Something snapped inside me. Really? Should we call Bonnie? Ask her who visited grandmother every Sunday? Who helped her with her medications? who actually listened to her stories instead of asking for money. "Now you're just being cruel," Mum whispered. "Cruel?" I walked to the mantel, touching the empty space where Grandmother's portrait had hung. "You want to talk about cruel? Look what they've done to her home, to her memories." "We're making it better," Cynthia protested. "This place was stuck in the past." "It was preserved with love," I cut her off. "Something you wouldn't understand." Ramon stepped toward me. "Sign the house over, Belle. One way or another, it's going to be ours." I smiled then, a calm settling over me. "Is that a threat?" "It's reality," he spat. "You really think anyone will side with you? The cold, distant sister who never makes time for family? Who lives alone with her cats?" "I don't have cats, Ramon. I have documentation, photos, witnesses, and a really good lawyer." The colour drained from Cynthia's face. "Now," I continued, "I'm going to my room. When I come down tomorrow, I expect to hear where my grandmother's china is. After that, we can discuss how long you need to find a new place." "You wouldn't dare," Mum gasped. "We're family." I paused at the stairs. "Yes, we are, and it's time this family learned about consequences." As I climbed the steps, I heard Ramon's angry voice. "She's bluffing! She won't really—" I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to Lionel. "Initiate Phase 1. His response came immediately. "Papers ready. They won't know what hit them." From downstairs, I could hear them plotting, strategizing, certain of their victory. They had no idea what was coming. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. "The property inspection is scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m, Lionel said, spreading documents across his desk. "Given what Bonnie's documented, it should be interesting," I nodded, watching him sort through photographs. "They still won't tell me where Grandmother's china is." "That's theft," he stated flatly. "We'll add it to the list." A knock at the office door interrupted us. Bonnie entered, clutching a manila envelope. "You need to see these," she said, pulling out more photos. "Caught Cynthia throwing furniture into a dumpster yesterday. Antique pieces. And look what the kids did to Margaret's portrait." The images showed Cynthia and Ramon hauling Grandmother's Victorian chairs to the curb, laughing as they tossed them in. Another showed the defaced portrait, now propped against the garbage bins. "I rescued it," Bonnie added. "It's at my house." My phone buzzed, a Facebook notification. Cynthia had tagged me in a post. "Dealing with toxic family members is so hard," she'd written. "Some people are just mentally unstable. Prayers needed." The comments flooded in. "Stay strong. Family should come first. Some people are just selfish." Lionel glanced at my phone. "Perfect. Keep screenshots of everything. Their social media campaign will backfire spectacularly." "They're trying to paint me as the villain," I said. "Let them," he replied. "The quieter you stay, the louder they'll get, and the louder they get." "The more evidence we have," I finished. Another knock. Lionel's assistant entered with a stack of papers. "The property assessor's preliminary report just came in. You'll want to see this." I scanned the document, my eyes widening. Water damage from unreported leaks, structural issues from unauthorized renovations, mold in the walls where they tried to install a new shower without permits. "They're destroying the house," I whispered. "They're destroying their case," Lionel corrected. "Each violation strengthens our position." My phone buzzed again. "Mum, why are there inspectors at the house? Ramon is furious. What are you doing to your family?" Before I could respond, another text came through. This one from Milena. "Aunt Belle, why is Mommy throwing away all the pretty things?" I showed Lionel the message. "The kids are innocent in this," I said. "Yes, but their parents aren't. Speaking of which, he turned his laptop around, showing me Ramon's browser history. Your brother left his Facebook logged in at the library where I get coffee. Look what he's been researching. The screen showed articles. How to contest a will. Suing siblings over inheritance. Proving mental incompetence in property disputes. They're planning to claim grandmother wasn't competent when she left me the house, I realised. They can try, Leonor smiled. I have her medical records, witness statements, and the video she made explaining her decision. Would you like to see it? What video? He pressed play. Grandmother's face filled the screen, her eyes clear and determined. I'm leaving the cottage to Belle, she said firmly. Ramon will protest, but he's proven time and again he can't be trusted. Belle is the only one who truly loves this place, who understands its value beyond money. And she's stronger than anyone knows. I wiped my eyes as the video ended. She knew this would happen, I said. She knew Ramon, Bonnie corrected. We all did. That's why she made sure everything was legally airtight. My phone lit up with notifications. Cynthia was live streaming from the house, giving a tour of all the improvements they'd made. And this awful wallpaper had to go, she was saying, showing the stripped walls of grandmother's bedroom. The old lady had no taste. Keep streaming, I muttered. Keep documenting your own destruction. Leonor gathered the papers into a file. The eviction notice is ready. We can serve it whenever you say. Not yet, I said, watching Cynthia's stream. Let them dig a little deeper. Belle, Bonnie touched my arm, Margaret would be proud of you, not just for fighting back, but for doing it the right way. My phone buzzed one final time. Ramon had accidentally sent me a message meant for Cynthia. Don't worry, babe. Once we get her declared unfit, the house is ours. No judge will side with a lonely spinster over a family with kids. I showed Leonor the message. Now? He asked. No, I replied, saving the screenshot. Let them think they're winning. The bigger they build themselves up, the harder they'll fall, Bonnie finished. Outside Leonor's office window, I could see the courthouse where this would all end. Soon. But not before they revealed every ugly truth about themselves to the world. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be thorough. The inspectors moved through the house like silent ghosts, taking photos and measurements while Ramon and Cynthia hovered anxiously nearby. I stood in the kitchen, pretending to make coffee while recording everything on my phone. Mom, one inspector called out, could you come look at this? In grandmother's pantry, black mould crept up the walls like evil fingers. The inspector pointed to water damage spreading across the ceiling. This is recent, he said, probably from the unauthorized bathroom installation upstairs. The entire structure could be compromised. We were improving the house, Cynthia protested from the doorway. That bathroom needed updating. Without permits? The inspector raised an eyebrow. And who authorized these modifications? Before Cynthia could answer, the front door burst open. Mom and Dad stormed in, faces red with anger. What is the meaning of this? Mum demanded. Why are you having people inspect your brother's home? My home, I corrected quietly. And it's a standard property assessment. Property assessment? Ramon appeared, waving his phone. More like gathering ammunition. I saw your lawyer's car outside his office yesterday. You're following me now? We're protecting our interests, Cynthia snapped. Ivisu, you think we don't know what you're doing? Building a case against us? The inspector cleared his throat. Ma'am, we need to check the electrical work next. These modifications aren't up to code. Get out! Ramon shouted. All of you, get out! They can't leave, I said. They have a legal right to be here. Dad stepped forward, using his reasonable voice. Belle, honey, this has gone far enough. You're tearing this family apart. No, Dad, the family's doing that all on its own. I'm calling my lawyer. Cynthia pulled out her phone. "This is harassment!" "Actually," I said, "harassment would be more like the social media posts you've been making. The ones calling me mentally unstable." She paled slightly. "Or maybe," I continued, "it's like following me to my lawyer's office, taking photos of my comings and goings." "We have rights," Ramon shouted. "We live here. Without a lease, without paying rent, without permission to modify the property." Mum burst into tears. "Why are you doing this to us? To your own brother?" "Inspector," I called out, ignoring her, "would you like to see what they did to the master bathroom?" As we climbed the stairs, my phone buzzed with a text from Lionel. "Cease and desist letter sent to Cynthia regarding defamation. Eviction notice ready." The inspector let out a low whistle when he saw the bathroom. They'd ripped out grandmother's original clawfoot tub, leaving holes in the floor and exposed pipes everywhere. "This is..." He shook his head. "This is going to need extensive repairs." "We were going to fix it." Ramon followed us in. "We just needed time." "Like you needed time to return grandmother's china?" I asked. "Or her jewellery? Or her..." "You bitch!" Cynthia appeared in the doorway. "You entitled, selfish bitch. You think you're better than us just because that old woman played favourites." The inspector raised his eyebrows, recording everything on his tablet. "That old woman was my grandmother," I said calmly. "And this is my house." "Not for long." Ramon grabbed my arm. "We've already talked to a lawyer. We can prove you manipulated her, that you..." "Remove your hand," I said quietly, "or the next inspection will be from the police." He let go, as if burned. "Belle," Mum pleaded from the hallway, "please, they have children. Where will they go?" They had 6 months to figure that out. Instead, they decided to try taking what isn't theirs. My phone buzzed again. A social media notification. Cynthia was live streaming. And now she's brought strangers into our home, trying to intimidate us, just because she's jealous of our family, of our happiness. The inspector cleared his throat. "Mum, are you recording this official inspection?" Cynthia's face fell. "Because that could be considered interference with a legal process." I smiled slightly. "Don't worry, Inspector. Everything's being documented. Everything." "This isn't over," Ramon hissed as the inspection team moved to the next room. "You're right," I agreed. "It's just beginning." Later that evening, as I sat in my apartment reviewing the inspector's preliminary report, my phone lit up with a notification. Ramon had accidentally left his browser open on the family computer. The tab showed an article. "How to challenge inheritance on grounds of mental incompetence." I forwarded the screenshot to Lionel, adding, "Time for phase 2? His response came quickly. "Documents ready. They won't know what hit them." Through my window, I could see the lights on at grandmother's cottage. Music thumped, voices carried across the yard. They were having another party, celebrating their imagined victory. Let them celebrate, I thought. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served legally, thoroughly, and with impeccable documentation. The process server arrived at exactly 10 a.m., while the remnants of last night's party still littered the front lawn. Ramon answered the door in his bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, while Cynthia peered over his shoulder with curlers in her hair. "Legal documents for Ramon and Cynthia," the server announced, holding out a thick envelope. "What is this?" Ramon's voice cracked as he accepted the papers. I stood by my car across the street, watching as Cynthia snatched the envelope and tore it open. Her face went from confused to pale to bright red in seconds. "Eviction notice?" she shrieked. 30 days to vacate. Property damage claims." Ramon grabbed the papers, coffee splashing onto his robe. "This has to be a joke." "Additionally," the server continued professionally, "you're being served with a cease and desist regarding defamatory social media posts and..." "Belle!" Cynthia screamed across the yard. Get over here right now! I walked calmly toward them as neighbours began peeking out their windows. You're really doing this? Ramon's voice shook. To your own family? Read page 3, I said quietly, the part about grandmother's missing belongings. Cynthia's face twitched. We didn't steal anything. We were just reorganising into a storage unit across town. I pulled out my phone, showing them the security footage Lionel had obtained. The one you rented under your maiden name? You had no right to. I had every right, just like I have the right to demand you leave my property. Car doors slammed behind us. Mum and Dad rushed up the walkway, clearly summoned by frantic texts. What's happening? Mum demanded. Ramon called us crying. Your daughter, Cynthia thrust the papers at them, is trying to make us homeless. Dad scanned the documents, his face darkening. Belle, this is too far. We can talk about this as a family. We tried talking, I said. For 6 months we tried talking. Now we're doing things legally. I'll countersue, Ramon shouted, for emotional distress, for harassment, for what? A new voice joined in. Bonnie walked up my driveway, carrying a large manila envelope. For documenting how you destroyed Margaret's home, for proving you sold her jewellery, for showing how you tried to steal her house from your sister. This doesn't concern you, Mum snapped. Actually, Bonnie smiled, as a witness to the property damage and theft, it does. Would you like to see my photos? I have quite the collection. Cynthia's face crumpled. You've been spying on us? No, Bonnie replied. I've been protecting Margaret's legacy, just like she asked me to. You can't prove anything, Ramon said, but his voice wavered. The inspection report proves the damage, I said. The storage unit proves the theft. Your social media posts prove the harassment. And grandmother's video proves she was completely competent when she left me the house. What video? Mum whispered. The one she made with her lawyer, where she explicitly states why Ramon couldn't be trusted with the property. Ramon lunged forward suddenly, grabbing my arm. You manipulative little... I wouldn't. Bonnie's voice cut like steel. Assault charges wouldn't help your case. He released me, stepping back. 30 days, I said, rubbing my arm. Return grandmother's belongings, pay for the damages and leave. Or what? Cynthia challenged. Or I press criminal charges for theft and property destruction. Leah now has the paperwork ready. You'd do that? Mum's voice broke. To your own brother? You taught me that family comes first, Mum. But you never taught Ramon that family goes both ways. We'll fight this, Ramon declared. We'll get lawyers, we'll... You'll what? I interrupted. Prove that you destroyed the house. Prove that you tried to steal it. Prove that you've been planning this takeover for months. I pulled out my phone, showing them Ramon's browser history. His face went pale. How did you... You really should log out of public computers, brother. Cynthia started crying, mascara running down her face. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem, I said, just like it wasn't your problem when you threw out grandmother's memories. Mum stepped toward me, hand raised to slap, but Dad caught her arm. Don't, he said quietly. You'll just make it worse. 30 days, I repeated, turning to leave. Not 1 day more. You'll regret this, Ramon called after me. When you're old and alone, you'll regret choosing a house over family. I stopped and looked back. I didn't choose the house over family, Ramon. You chose greed over sister. As I walked away, I heard Bonnie say, I have more photos if anyone's interested. Margaret always said documentation was the best protection against liars. The sound of Cynthia's wailing followed me to my car, but for the first time in months, I felt at peace. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear most. especially when they have proof of every wrong you've done. The mediation room felt smaller than it was, cramped with tension and unspoken accusations. Ramon and Cynthia sat across the table, their lawyer between them, while Mom and Dad huddled in chairs against the wall. Lionel arranged documents in front of me with surgical precision. "Let's begin," the mediator said. "We're here to discuss the eviction notice and property damage claims regarding—" "This is ridiculous," Ramon interrupted. "She's my sister. You can't evict family." "Mr. Ramon," the mediator's voice hardened, "interruptions won't help your case. Now, Ms. Isabel has provided extensive documentation. Let's review it." Lionel started sliding photos across the table. The destroyed rose garden, the mouldy walls, grandmother's defaced portrait, the security footage of Cynthia moving antiques to storage. "These items," Lionel said, "are valued at approximately $47,000. That's not including structural damage to the property." Cynthia's lawyer leaned forward. "My clients were making improvements." "Without permits," Lionel countered. "Without permission. And without any professional oversight, leading to significant water damage." The mediator reviewed the inspection report. "This is concerning." "We were trying to modernize," Cynthia protested. "That old lady's taste was—" "That old lady," I cut in, "left very specific instructions about the house. Would you like to see her video statement?" Ramon's face went white. "There's no need for—" Lionel already had his laptop open. Grandmother's face appeared on screen, her voice clear and strong. "I'm leaving my home to Belle because she's the only one who truly understands its value. Ramon has proven repeatedly that he can't be trusted with family treasures. The missing jewelry, the pawned silver. Yes, I knew about all of it. Belle will protect this house. She'll honor its memories." Mum started crying. Dad stared at his shoes. "Furthermore," the video continued, "I'm of sound mind and body, making this decision with full mental capacity. Any attempts to contest this will only prove why I made the right choice." Cynthia's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we could discuss a settlement?" "No!" Ramon slammed his fist on the table. "She manipulated grandmother. She turned her against us." "Like you turned our parents against me?" I asked quietly. "All those years of drama, of taking and taking, while they told me to be understanding. That's different. You needed consequences," I finished. "And now you're getting them." The mediator cleared his throat. "The evidence of property damage and theft is substantial. Ms. Isabel's terms seem quite reasonable. 30 days to vacate, return of all removed items, and payment for damages." "We can't afford that," Cynthia wailed. "You could start with returning grandmother's china," I suggested, "and her jewelry." "The jewelry's gone," Ramon mumbled. "We sold it," Mom gasped. Dad finally looked up, disappointment etched on his face. "Then we'll add its value to the damages," Lionel said, making notes. "We have appraisals for everything." "This isn't fair," Cynthia stood up, mascara running. "We have children. Where are we supposed to go?" "Perhaps," the mediator said dryly, "you should have considered that before destroying someone else's property." Ramon turned to our parents. "Mum, Dad, say something." But for the first time in my memory, they stayed silent. "Here are your options." Lionel laid out 3 documents. Option 1, accept the eviction, return what you can, and set up a payment plan for damages. Option 2, refuse and face criminal charges for theft and destruction of property. Option 3, try to fight it in court, where we'll present all this evidence, plus the social media harassment, plus... "Enough!" Ramon's voice cracked. "We'll take option 1. Ramon! Cynthia shrieked. Bro, we can't just... We lost, Cynthia. Look at the evidence. Look at what we did. We lost. The mediator nodded. A wise choice. Let's discuss the terms. As Leonor outlined the agreement, I watched my brother. Really, watched him. The entitled anger crumbling into defeat. The realization that, for once, he couldn't charm or manipulate his way out. I never wanted this, I said softly. I just wanted you to respect what grandmother left me. You could have shared, Mum whispered from behind. Like Ramon shared my college fund, my first car, my inheritance from Dad's parents. Dad flinched at that. The papers were signed within the hour. As we left the room, Cynthia turned to me one last time. I hope you're happy destroying your family like this. No, Cynthia. The family was destroyed long ago. I'm just finally standing up to the destroyers. Through the window, I could see grandmother's cottage in the distance. Soon, it would be quiet again. Soon, the roses would bloom again. Sometimes, the biggest victories come not with a bang, but with the quiet scratch of a pen on paper, making things right at last. The moving truck pulled away from the cottage, carrying the last of Ramon and Cynthia's belongings. I stood in the garden, planting new rose bushes where grandmother's had once bloomed, while Bonnie worked beside me. They didn't even say goodbye, Bonnie remarked, patting soil around a tender plant. No, I agreed, but they did leave this. I pulled out a crumpled note found in the kitchen. We're staying at the Sunset Motel off Highway 12. The kids miss their aunt. Manipulation until the end, Bonnie sighed. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. I found some of Margaret's china in our attic. Ramon must have hidden it there. When can I bring it by? Before I could respond, another message appeared. This one from Milena. Aunt Belle, I'm sorry about the roses. And grandmother's picture. I didn't want to draw on it, but Mum said it would be funny. I showed Bonnie the messages. The truth always surfaces, she said, standing up and brushing dirt from her knees. Speaking of which, she disappeared into her house next door and returned carrying something wrapped in a sheet. Found this behind my water heater this morning. Think you might want it. My hands trembled as I unwrapped grandmother's portrait. Despite the marker scribbles, her eyes still held that familiar warmth, that quiet strength. Nothing a good art restorer can't fix, Bonnie said. The sound of a car door made us turn. Dad stood in the driveway, holding a box. Found these too, he said quietly, setting down grandmother's photo albums. Ramon had them in his storage unit. I paid it off so they wouldn't auction anything. Thanks, Dad. He shifted uncomfortably. Your mother and we enabled him. For years, we enabled him, made excuses, asked you to do the same. Yes, you did. I'm sorry, Belle. We should have been fair, I suggested, taught him consequences, protected me sometimes. He nodded, eyes wet. The garden could use another pair of hands, I said, holding out a trowel. If you want to start making things right. Dad rolled up his sleeves and knelt in the dirt. As we worked, a small voice called from the sidewalk. Aunt Belle? Arthur stood there clutching something in his hands. His mother's car idled at the curb, Cynthia pointedly looking away. I found this in my backpack, he said, holding out grandmother's music box ballerina. The one I broke. I tried to fix it, but I took the poorly glued pieces, feeling their jagged edges. Thank you for bringing it back. Mom says we can't visit anymore. Your mom's angry right now, but someday, when you're older, you can visit if you want to. He nodded solemnly. I liked grandmother's stories about the roses. Me too. Would you like to help plant one before you go? Arthur glanced at the car, then quickly joined us in the garden. Together, we planted the last rose bush, his small hands patting the soil with surprising gentleness. There, I said. Now, You'll always have a rose here? After he left, Dad looked at me. You're better than we were, Belle. You're giving them a chance to make things right, even after everything. I'm giving them a choice, I corrected. Just like Grandmother gave Ramon choices, and he made the wrong ones. Inside, the cottage was beginning to feel like itself again. The garish paint had been stripped, revealing Grandmother's carefully chosen wallpaper beneath. Her quilts were back on the beds, her herbs hanging in the kitchen. Bonnie helped me hang the portrait above the fireplace, marker stains and all. Why not restore it right away? She asked, because sometimes our scars tell important stories. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Leonel. Ramon's first restitution payment cleared. Want me to have the roses replanted professionally? No, I replied. Some things you need to rebuild yourself. As the evening light filtered through Grandmother's lace curtains, I sat in her favourite chair, the one Cynthia had wanted to throw away. The house felt different now, stronger somehow, like it had weathered a storm and emerged standing taller. Dad was still in the garden, quietly working as the sun set. Mum's china waited to be picked up. Arthur's rose would bloom next spring. Even the portrait, despite its scars, watched over it all with Grandmother's knowing smile. I hadn't burned bridges. I'd simply stopped maintaining the ones that led nowhere. And in their place, new connections were growing. Tentative as spring roses, but just as promising. The cottage creaked softly, settling into its foundations. Outside, crickets began their evening song. I closed my eyes, finally at peace in the quiet house that had taught me the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, love means saying no, standing firm, and letting the truth speak for itself.